But let's go to some more Republican nonsense here. So, the speakership of the House. We have not had a speaker in the House since October 3rd. And it is now, what is today? October 18th.
18.
So over 2 weeks now. Why is this important? The Speaker of the House is second in line to the presidency. If the president dies and the vice president dies, the Speaker of the House becomes president. So the third most powerful seat in our government in the United States, easily, arguably, the third most powerful seat in the world, totally unoccupied for 2 weeks because the Republicans can't get their shit together. So here's a quick recap. Kevin McCarthy became speaker. It took 15 votes to make him speaker. First time that ever happened. He had to give up a lot of concessions to the Republicans. One of them was that any one Republican at any time could call for basically a vote to vacate the chair. And then if they got a vote, he'd be no longer speaker. Sure enough, less than a year later, he pisses one of them off, Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz does that. He gets vacated from the seat, so he loses it in less than a year. Forced out of his seat, right? Since then, no speaker. Republicans get together, they elect Steve Scalise to run as speaker. Steve Scalise realizes he's not going to get the votes. Instead of being embarrassed, he withdraws.
Okay. Let's also, I don't know if this is his thinking, but I'm just thinking, if I were somehow in this whole disaster, do I want to be the person inheriting the disaster? It's a really powerful position and all of that stuff, and I'm sure it's going to look great on a resume, but
he wanted it. He ran.
You're literally taking on a huge disaster. I mean,
no, he wanted it. He wanted it. He ran for it, but I think he realized he wasn't going to get the vote, so it wasn't worth it. So Jim Jordan,
drop it for another reason, man.
So Jim Jordan, the guy Trump wanted, was now up for it, right? So Jim Jordan, first vote. Here's the breaking news after the first vote for Jim Jordan. Now we got rid of Kevin McCarthy. Scalise was their next pick. Now we're down to the third string, Jim Jordan. Let's see how Jim Jordan did on his vote to become Speaker of the House.
How many rounds do you think this speaker vote's going to take?
We need to get a bunch of stuff. We need to get a speaker as soon as possible and get to work for the American.
Any concerns you've heard from members about tactics used to win your vote?
No.
Are you going back to the floor today?
But that's the plan.
When do you think the next vote will be started?
Jordan had.
Okay, this is Kevin McCarthy. Sorry.
On the first round. I think the difference here too is we have rules so we can sit down and talk to the other members and be able to move forward.
So that was the former speaker, Kevin McCarthy. So the first guy, Jim Jordan, loses. Right? You need a majority to win. So in the House, that's 217 votes to become speaker. You need that minimum vote out of the 400 and whatever it is, 432, right? Well, here's what's funny. Jim Jordan got 200 votes, which means 20 Republicans went against him. Right? Jim Jeffries, who's the Democrat, right? Jim Jeffries got all the Democratic votes. They united together, and Jim Jeffries got, or not, is it Jim? Not Jim Jeffries, sorry. Hakeem Jeffries, or whatever it is. He got 212 votes. So the Democrat in a Republican-controlled House got more votes for Speaker than the freaking Republican.
What planet are we on right now?
So here's the deal. You only need 217 to win. Hakeem Jeffries got 212. Now, 5 Republicans would have to basically betray the party and vote for Hakeem, which is not likely to happen. But that's how close he is to being speaker. And he'd be the first time that I know of, at least, that he would be, the minority party would have a Speaker of the House. which would be it'd be crazy. Meanwhile, the Republicans held another vote today for Jim Jordan, right? And he got even less votes today. So things have
How many
got.
people today?
I don't know what the total was today. They just said less. He got less than 200, which is what he got yesterday.
Less than 200.
So he got 200 yesterday. He got less than that today.
Oh.
So he
Geez,
lost.
okay.
So he lost more people. Probably because they have no confidence in him. So things got. I mean, so now it's just a big shit show. Anyway.
I mean, it happened, but yeah, the shit show continues.
Oh God. So now they're arguing about the guy who's the temporary chair or the temporary speaker. All he can do is call a vote for speaker. That's all he's permitted to do. But now they're talking about, well, maybe because the government shutdown's coming pretty soon, because all they did was kick it down the road for a month and a half. Maybe what we do, that and the whole thing in Israel, maybe what we do is we give him limited powers to hold those votes. And so that's the other thing they're talking about. But then you still wouldn't have a speaker. So it might be that we go all the way into the end of the year, maybe even next year's election cycle, with no Speaker of the House, which means we can't pass a budget. We can't pass any laws. We can't, I mean, basically, they shut it down. And it's like, what do you expect from a party who went from limited government to no government to destroy the government and then expect them to govern? I mean, that's kind of what's happened is they are their brand. But anyway, so here is, so Jim Jordan running for speaker. I wanted to pull this up. This is Face the Nation. So forget this woman's name. She's talking to GOP Representative Mike Turner about Jim Jordan being selected. And Jim Jordan has a lot of skeletons in his closet. And this is one of the big ones. So we're stealing this clip from the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, and we'll watch a couple clips from this where they talk about Jim Jordan and Jim Jordan's past, because he's, like I said before, he has some big skeletons in his closet. So they're going to talk. So this is them watching a clip of Face the Nation and Representative Mike Turner, who supports Jim Jordan for the speaker. And so we'll watch this real quick.
Another Ohio rep and the House Intelligence Committee chair.
Gotcha.
Jordan's working right now to put that coalition together to get to 217.
So do the allegations that he turned a blind eye to sexual assault at Ohio University cause any problems for you, or the allegations that he had knowledge of Donald Trump's attempts on January 6th and leading up to it to stop the election certification?
First of all, the allegations at Ohio State, there's not one person who's ever said that they have knowledge of Jim Jordan having it.
Pause it for a second.
And what occurred.
Now, to be fair, that is a true statement. There is not one person who said that. There are multiple people who have said it.
So the first issue there, so she brought up two big issues on Jim Jordan. One is he was kind of part of the January 6th thing. He wanted Mike Pence to overturn the election, right? And he's been subpoenaed for the January 6th hearings. He still never showed up for the subpoena, even though he's a House rep. He should have showed up for the subpoena, but he wouldn't do it.
Oh my God.
Which was funny because he was bitching about something on a committee where he's the chair of the committee, and nobody answers my subpoenas. And the Democrats were all laughing, going, why would they? You don't answer subpoenas, right?
Right? Again, this goes back to the thing that you were talking about. Like, you know, it seems as though this party keeps showing over and over again that there's one set of rules for one set of people and another set of rules for another set of people.
Right.
You know?
So here's the thing about the other big issue. So Jim Jordan, when he was a assistant wrestling coach at Ohio State University, for like 7 or 8 years he was there. There was a doctor there who had been there for like 20 years, and it was fairly well known this doctor was sexually assaulting the wrestlers. 18 to 20-year-old boys, right? And there are at least 6 or 7 people that went to Jim Jordan and reported it, and Jim Jordan helped cover it all up and let it go for years while he was there. And so that was the other question they asked him about. So when he's like, well, there's not one person that said Sam was making the joke. It's not one person. It's several people who have accused him, credibly accused him. And this case is still going on. So let's watch this next clip they're going to watch. But this is just amazing to me that Republicans don't even, they'd want this guy to be the speaker with all this shit.
That video. So after we're done with this, we'll play it.
Well, first of all, the allegations at Ohio State, there's not one person who's ever said that they have knowledge of Jim Jordan having any knowledge. And what occurred at Ohio State wasn't even under Jim Jordan. He was not like the head coach. This was not something that he had responsibility for. So those that are making accusations are making just presumptions of, well, he would have had to have known. But there's no one, and mind you, this was years ago, no one who has come forward at all ever and never said that there was actual knowledge on Jim Jordan's part. And of course, he condemns what occurred there. With respect to Donald Trump, that's a mess that's going to continue going on the issue of January 6th, and Americans are going to be able to have that debate as we go forward in this next election cycle.
He really spent a lot of time on that thing, which is stunning, because there are, do we have it?
I wonder.
So anyway, that kills me because it's just such a chicken shit answer. You should know this by now. You're going to vote for the guy for speaker. You should know that there are credible people that actually spoke to him and told him about this, and he didn't do anything. There's credible evidence that he was involved with January 6th, that he knew that Trump was planning it beforehand. There's text messages, there's video. It's not like, it's not like you have to be, Matlock to fucking solve this one. Right?
I don't know. Maybe we need Matlock to bust in here on this one.
It's just a fucking shit show. Let me skip to the juicy shit here, because this is just amazing. So he's talking about no one's accused him. No one says he has any knowledge, right? That was his statement. Here is a very famous clip that came out not too long ago, and Sam's going to introduce it here. Unmute.
But work as an assistant wrestling coach in basically telling students coming up to him and saying, look, I can't do anything about the predator, essentially, that is looking to sexually assault you. You would think that she would have a follow-up, because that they're going to say, that's not true. And this is the video. And look at the chyron. It's not like somebody sitting there with their iPhone. This is in the Ohio channel, their video from the Ohio House, and here is testimony Civil Justice Committee about allowing victims to sue the University of Ohio.
This is disgusting. You people have the power to do something. Ohio State is too arrogant. They think it's going to go away. Jim Jordan called me crying, groveling on the 4th of July, begging me to go against my brother. Begging me, crying for a half hour. That's the kind of cover-ups that's going on there. Now, you guys can sit and act like it's not going on, But I got a lot of other stuff here. Emails that were taken out of my mailbox. That's a crime.
So anyway, no, I mean that's it. I don't know what else you really need to hear about that. I mean, there's lots of other witnesses. There's a lot, like he said, he's got emails, they've got texts, he's got calls.
Do you need them? Do you need more witnesses? I mean, like, you can produce them, but yeah, do you need them?
Well, his brother was one of the guys who was sexually assaulted. That's why he's saying, no, go up there and tell. Jim Jordan called the guy and said, tell everybody that your brother lied about being sexually assaulted. And, you know, I could see his attitude. You saw the guy's. His attitude was probably, fuck you piece of shit.
No.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about that whole thing is, so the Democrats were talking about, what if Jim Jordan becomes Speaker of the House, right? Well, there were a lot of people in the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, right, who are sitting there going, wait a second. If Jim Jordan becomes the Speaker, we can run that video in ads on a loop all over the country. We'll pick up 30 seats in the House, or 40 seats. Jim Jordan is such a fucking shit show, and the Republicans are so corrupt and dirty. You show that to the average American who knows nothing about politics. Hey, the Speaker of the House that the Republicans elected covered up a sexual predator for the better part of a decade, and then cried and begged people to lie. And
I know this isn't popular to say, but also that sexual predator wasn't preying on women, preying on young men. And let's just, bank on the sexism in America, right? Wait a minute. Preying on men.
Right.
Preying on anybody is horrible, but yeah, quite frankly.
Yeah.
When it's going to read even bigger, and I hate saying that, but it will.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably the truth. Anyway, but the whole history of Republicans as House Speaker has been just a shit show. And I wanted to kind of wrap up this news segment with this. This is Alex Wagner on her show on MSNBC. But just sort of the past of Republican speakers of the House. Because this is just... It's just a fucking nightmare with these guys. Oh. It's a party that doesn't want to govern.
I do hope that I have left a few footprints behind that may be of value to those who come after me, just as I have benefited from the footprints of those who I followed to this most wonderful of institutions, the People's House.
Dennis Hastert, the man you saw just there, was this century's very first Republican Speaker of the House. He held the Speaker's gavel from 1999 to 2007. He got the job after the hasty departure of his predecessor, Newt Gingrich. That's because when Republicans lost 5 seats in the House during the 1998 elections, they turned on Gingrich. And his longtime ally, Congressman Bob Livingston, threatened to challenge Gingrich for the speakership. So Gingrich resigned and was ultimately replaced by Hastert. To this day, Dennis Hastert remains...
What she's also forgetting is Gingrich was having an affair, I think, at the time.
Longest-serving leader of the Republican conference. And Hastert might have retired in the good graces of his party, except that several years after his resignation, Hastert was convicted of financial crimes related to child sex abuse. So, then there was John Boehner, who, as Speaker in 2015, faced the threat of a motion to vacate from Congressman Mark Meadows. That motion never came to a vote, but the effort alone led Boehner to resign in the middle of his term. He served for 4 years as Speaker. And then there was Paul Ryan. His time as Speaker coincided with Donald Trump's election and a new era of politics, and the Republican Party, for that matter. Ryan reportedly told friends that serving as Speaker during the Trump administration was, quote, agonizing. Trump went after Ryan with public insults, in addition to Trump's near daily controversies that Ryan had to govern through. About 30 months into the job, Paul Ryan opted to vacate the Speaker's chair and also to retire from public office entirely. And now, as of today, Kevin McCarthy, the party's fourth Speaker this century, served for 269 days before being ousted by members of his own party in an historic vote.
So the history of the Republican Party is they all either leave because they can't fucking stand it or they step down in shame.
Well, I don't know if I have anything to add to that other than wow. Just wow.
I have one more thing to add. Say what you want about Nancy Pelosi. And don't get me wrong, I disagree with Nancy Pelosi on a ton of things, and I definitely do not like her insider trading shit. Don't get me wrong. Not a huge Pelosi fan, right? But I will say this. One of the longest sitting speakers of the House in history, and she did keep the Democrats together. I can't remember who was speaker before her for the Democrats. She held that seat for a long fucking time under Obama. And under Bush, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and she was speaker up until just recently when she stepped down. Was it like a year or so ago? Yeah, it was a year ago when McCarthy first became speaker. Yeah, was when she had to step down. But yeah. So yeah, no, just a total shit show with the Republicans. I don't know what else to say at this point. It's just crime, corruption, and lack of ability to do anything. So